So I just saw A Quiet Place day one, and I gotta say that this is a terrible movie to have popcorn in. I should have known going into this, but there I was munching away, and every single time the movie went quiet, I'm sitting there like, oh god, can I eat? No. And then something loud happens, I'm like, shit, let's eat now that I have this window of opportunity. No, but what I do actually need to say about A Quiet Place day one is that I am one of those people that thought that A Quiet Place never needed a sequel to begin with, or a prequel. This is not a movie that felt like it was franchise material to me. It was kind of like this indie horror sci-fi film that I thought was really creative and unique at the time, back in, 2018 when it came out. It was an exciting, fresh thing, and I really enjoyed it. Then the second one came out, and it was good, but I just never felt like we really needed it, and it never really felt like it added much to the world of the films anyway. It just didn't feel that necessary. And I know it's a little bit dumb to complain about movies and their necessity, because technically no movie is necessary. What's it mean when you say that a movie isn't necessary? Well, I don't know. You tell me, I guess, but I felt it here. Whatever that means to you, take that how you will. I don't think that A Quiet Place day one is necessary. I'll also say that I don't think it really delivers on its promise. Given the subtitle of day one, to me that suggests that this is going to be a movie that's going to be a lot more chaotic than what we've seen before. Main characters and side characters' deaths, everyone dying from start to finish, stuck in this whirlwind of confusion as they're trying to piece together what the fuck is going on with these aliens and how they got there and, how to survive and all that stuff. But this movie doesn't really explore this idea at all, actually. It's more so just another A Quiet Place film. It doesn't really explore the idea of the characters learning to adapt. They instead just instantly understand what's going on, instantly know how to survive and know to be quiet and all this stuff. You don't see them figuring it out. In fact, early on, the protagonist is knocked out for a second and she wakes up to a world of people who just know exactly what to do. And I thought that was a real cop-out, to be honest. I thought that was the movie really not showing a lot of confidence in itself and instead just doing what it already knows. There's no origin here. Why didn't they even, explore the very concept that this whole film is based on, pretty much? They just skipped the origin part that we're all here for and instead just made another A Quiet Place film. Technically, that's earlier in the timeline, but it's still not really about the characters figuring out what's going on, and it doesn't really have any difference to it. There's nothing to differentiate it. There's nothing here that feels more chaotic than the previous films or anything like that. It's just, we've got some quiet scenes, we've got some scary loud scenes, and it just really follows suit with those two previous films. It's just another one of those. And no, that's not exactly a bad thing either, because those are good films and so is this, but it's just that, I don't know, there's just something lacking to it. To me, it's just an odd choice given the fact that nobody was really asking for A Quiet Place prequel to begin with, right? But, they're the ones setting this thing up, telling us that that's what they're going to deliver on, and then it doesn't really explore what I would think would be the interesting parts of a prequel to these films. But it is a bit of a weird middle ground for me, I have to admit, because I'm somebody who doesn't really care about getting explanations for these kinds of things anyway. I don't need to know why or how the aliens got to Earth. I don't need to know what's going to happen long after the plot of these films end. I don't need to know these things. I don't need to know how they figured out that they needed to be quiet and all this stuff. I don't really care about those finer details. Just drop us in the world like the original film did and show us its rules and show us these people surviving. That's what these films are supposed to be about, survival. And this one is. But it's just that there's this weird middle ground where it's it's a prequel, but it doesn't really make use of that. But it also doesn't really make use of building on what came before it or after it in the timeline as well. It's just nothing. It's just the same thing, really. All right, enough complaining though, because now I should probably talk about some of the good stuff. These movies, and this one as well, is all about earned sentimentality that makes you care about these characters, and it's also all about survival. This is horror survival at its core. Now, the previous A Quiet Place films were set on, farms and stuff. I figured it was some sort of state in America that I'm not that familiar with, like Colorado or Ohio or something. I don't know those places, but apparently not. It was upstate New York, and this film is also in New York, but the city this time, and I recognized it. I know what New York looks like, the city. This all being set within the city of New York was a bit more exciting for this film, I will say, and it definitely is a very atmospheric film. I won't go as far to say as the setting is another character on its own or anything crazy like that, but it definitely does have character, and it definitely has some very beautiful shots, cinematography and whatnot. I don't know. I'm no expert on that kind kind of shit, but it was a good looking film. And there's some great intense set pieces throughout this setting as well that really allows some creativity when it comes to the scare scenes and the running away from monsters and stuff. You get a scene in the sewer, you get a scene within the streets with burning cars and shit, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's some good stuff here that we haven't seen before in the previous two films. The setting does bring another little bit of an element to this film. Although, that being said, maybe I'm talking bullshit because the other movies were also set in New York, just not the city. So it's not actually that far apart geographically, but it felt pretty different to me. It had a different feel to it in its setting and stuff. And it did make me think like, wow, we could have like a whole entire, well, franchise. I guess this is already becoming a franchise, but we could have a whole series of A Quiet Place films just based on like setting and premise alone. We could have A Quiet Place in the Snow, A Quiet Place in the Jungle, A Quiet Place in Space, you know? And that's not even that stupid actually, because it's about aliens, right? But yeah, it did make me think about that. But with that being said, look at me trying to make it into a franchise, which I never wanted to begin with. Now I'm doing it. I should also compliment Lupita Nyong'o, who I think does a fantastic job here. And given the fact that this is the third film in this series and it's not about the characters that we've grown accustomed to prior to this film, it does a good job of not making you wish that we were just with that main family that we already know. Like, you do actually begin to care about this character fairly quickly, I would argue. At least I did. And I thought they did a pretty good job with the characterization there. I think that it was pretty well written when it was about the sort of arc of its characters. Even if I don't think that the film explored deeply enough in terms of the world building, I do think that it does a good job in writing its single characters, if that makes sense. So yeah, there are good things in here, but it's pretty par for the course when it comes to this series, to be honest. And it doesn't do a whole lot to differentiate itself from the others or make it any better, or to be fair, any worse either. I know I've bitched a lot in this review so far, but I do need to stress, this is good, but I also just don't think that it's compulsory viewing, really, at all. Because it doesn't really do anything new. It doesn't cut deep into the horror or push the boundaries of the gore. It doesn't expand on the lore of this film's universe really at all. And it doesn't give us anything new in terms of what the aliens can do or how they hunt their prey or anything like that. But now I will say my favorite part of the film, something that I really do need to compliment, something that is amazingly done. And that is the fact that A Quiet Place Day One is a fantastic addition to cat cinema. There is a little cat in this movie and it's so cute and I love it. I love it so much. It really made this movie. What a star. It is the star of this film. It is the one that you care for most. It is the one that you just want to see survive the whole time. And I won't spoil the cat's fate in case you don't want to know that, but I will say to cat lovers out there, it is a pretty intense watch. I have to admit. The entire time they're really teasing this cat going out into danger. You're worried pretty much every single time it strays away somewhere, goes off screen or whatever, and you're like, fuck, they're gonna kill the cat, aren't they? So it did make it a little bit more intense in good and bad ways, but overall, I will say that this cat has a lot of screen time, surprisingly, and I absolutely loved that. It did make it a bit joyous to me as a cat lover. No, honestly, there aren't a lot of movies where cats have a lot of screen time, and most of the time, especially in horror movies, a cat is just a cheap jump scare, right? That's not really the case here. The cat's a character. The cat is a character. Cats and pets and stuff are family, and I love the cat. I love the cat, okay? And I think I partly loved the cat so much because it looks like my little boy Andy here. He's a little kitten. And I love him. And he looks like the cat from A Quiet Place Day One. Ah, don't you love him? So yeah, anyway, at the end of the day, this is just a movie about a girl who wants a pizza. That is literally the plot of this movie. Once you see it, you'll understand. I think it's good. I just don't think it's necessary, but I don't know. It was fun to go to the movies and see a horror movie. It always is. I love when new horror movies come out. And I am glad that a horror franchise like this is succeeding monumentally. It's very popular. People fucking love these A Quiet Place movies. So that's kind of a win, if you ask me. Anyway, Andy really wants you to do the things which are like, comment, and share, and subscribe to my channel. He's really like involved with that. He really gives a shit. And if you don't, he'll be sad. So like, guilt trip,